The autumn air in Manhattan carried the crisp promise of October, with golden leaves dancing along Fifth Avenue as evening descended. The gleaming glass facade of the Metropolitan Cultural Center reflected the city lights, while a red carpet stretched from the sidewalk to the ornate entrance. Tonight was the annual Rising Stars Charity Gala, one of New York's most exclusive cultural events. Maya Chen, 24, approached the venue with confident steps, her white cane tapping rhythmically against the pavement. Her long black hair was elegantly styled, and she wore a stunning midnight blue evening gown that complemented her graceful posture. Despite being born blind, Maya had developed an extraordinary ability to navigate the world through sound, scent, and intuition. "Good evening," Maya said warmly to the doorman, her voice carrying a slight tremor of excitement. "Maya Chen, I have a VIP ticket for tonight's gala." The doorman, Marcus, a tall man in his 50s with graying temples, looked down at her with barely concealed disdain. His eyes fixed on her white cane, and his expression hardened. "I'm sorry, miss, but I don't see your name on our VIP list," Marcus said curtly, not bothering to check his tablet. Maya's brow furrowed slightly. "That's strange. I purchased the ticket through your official website last week. Could you please check again? It's under Maya Chen, Chen. Marcus made a show of glancing at his device for barely 2 seconds. "Nope, nothing here. Besides, this is a very exclusive event with stairs, multiple levels, and complex navigation. It wouldn't be appropriate for someone in your condition." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Around them, other guests in expensive suits and glittering gowns were being welcomed warmly, their tickets barely scrutinized. The contrast was stark and humiliating. "My condition." Maya's voice remained steady, though her knuckles whitened as she gripped her cane. "Sir, I assure you I'm perfectly capable of navigating any venue. I have my ticket confirmation right here on my phone." "Listen, lady," Marcus's tone grew more aggressive, "this isn't some community center event. These are important people, investors, celebrities, politicians. They don't need to be distracted. Why don't you try the community events down at the local library instead?" A small crowd began to gather, some guests slowing their entrance to witness the confrontation. Maya could hear their whispered conversations, feel their stares. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment, but she maintained her composure. "I'm not asking for special treatment," Maya said, her voice now carrying an edge of steel. "I simply want to attend the event I paid for, just like everyone else." Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "You're causing a scene. I suggest you leave before I call security. This is a private event, and we reserve the right to refuse entry to anyone we deem unsuitable." The humiliation was complete. Maya stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of dozens of eyes upon her, the uncomfortable shuffling of feet, the whispered judgments. Some guests walked past her as if she were invisible, while others stared with a mixture of pity and discomfort. "I understand," Maya said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. She turned to leave, her cane tapping against the pavement as she walked away from the bright lights and warmth of the venue. As she walked down Fifth Avenue, the sounds of the city seemed muted, overshadowed by the ringing in her ears from the encounter. Maya had faced discrimination before, but never so publicly, never so brutally. She pulled out her phone and called her assistant, David. "David, it's Maya. Cancel my evening plans. I need you to set up a meeting first thing tomorrow morning." "Of course, Ms. Chen. Is everything all right?" Maya paused, standing under a streetlight as pedestrians flowed around her like water around a stone. "No, David. Everything is not all right. But it will be." The next morning, Maya sat in her corner office on the 42nd floor of the Chen Financial Tower, one of Manhattan's newest skyscrapers. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, warming her face as she listened to the city awakening below. Her fingers moved across her braille display, reviewing documents that would change everything. David Martinez, her 28-year-old assistant and one of her closest friends, entered with 2 cups of coffee. He had worked with Maya for 3 years and had learned to read her moods with remarkable accuracy. Today, he sensed something different, a quiet determination that made him both curious and concerned. "Your coffee, Maya. Extra shot of espresso, just how you like it when you're planning something big." "Thank you, David." Maya accepted the cup, inhaling the rich aroma. "Tell me everything you found about the Metropolitan Cultural Center." David settled into the chair across from her desk, opening his laptop. "It's quite interesting, actually. The venue has been struggling financially for the past 2 years. They've had to cancel several major events, and their membership has declined by 30%. The building itself is historic, built in 1924, but it needs significant renovations. And the ownership structure? That's where it gets complicated. It's owned by Prestige Venues LLC, which is controlled by a consortium of investors led by Richard Blackstone. He's the majority shareholder with 60% ownership." Maya's expression remained neutral, but David noticed her fingers pause on her braille display. "Richard Blackstone. I know that name. He's also the CEO of Blackstone Holdings, which owns several other event venues across the city. The man has a reputation for exclusivity. Several discrimination lawsuits have been filed against his properties over the years, though most were settled out of court." "Settlements often mean guilt without admission," Maya mused, taking a sip of her coffee. "What's the current market value of the Metropolitan Cultural Center?" David scrolled through his notes. "Based on comparable sales and the current real estate market, approximately $42 million. But here's the thing, they're hemorrhaging money. Their annual operating loss is nearly $3 million, and they have outstanding debts of $12 million. Maya leaned back in her chair, a plan beginning to form in her mind. At 24, she had already built a financial empire that most people twice her age would envy. The Chen Investment Group, which she had inherited from her late father and grown exponentially, managed assets worth over $2 billion. Her blindness had never been a limitation in the world of finance. Numbers didn't discriminate, and neither did profit margins. "David, I want you to contact our lawyers. Specifically, Sarah Morrison from the acquisitions team. Tell her I need a comprehensive analysis of purchasing options for the Metropolitan Cultural Center." "Maya, are you seriously considering buying the venue? That's a $42 million response to one night of discrimination." Maya turned toward the window, though she couldn't see the sprawling city beyond. She could feel its energy, hear its constant hum of activity. "It's not about the money, David. It's about ensuring this never happens to anyone else. How many people have been turned away from that door? How many dreams have been crushed by ignorance and prejudice? But there might be other ways to address this. We could file a discrimination lawsuit, contact the media, organize protests. All of which would take years and might result in a settlement that changes nothing." Maya's voice carried the confidence of someone who had learned early that sometimes the most direct approach was the most effective. "If I own the venue, I can implement immediate changes. I can create policies that ensure accessibility and inclusion aren't just buzzwords, but core principles." David was quiet for a moment, understanding that Maya had already made her decision. He had seen this look before, the calm determination that preceded her most successful business moves. "All right. What's the timeline?" "I want a preliminary offer drafted by end of business today. Schedule a meeting with their representatives for tomorrow morning." "And David," Maya's lips curved into a smile that held no warmth, "make sure the offer is one they can't refuse." The conference room at Blackstone Holdings buzzed with nervous energy as Richard Blackstone and his team of lawyers and financial advisors waited for their mysterious potential buyer. Richard, a man in his late 50s with silver hair and an expensive suit that couldn't quite hide his growing anxiety, paced near the window overlooking Central Park. "I don't understand why they won't tell us who the buyer is," he muttered to his attorney, James Walsh. "This level of secrecy usually means either foreign investors or someone with a grudge." "The offer is legitimate, Richard. $48 million, cash, with a 30-day closing period. That's $6 million above market value. In your current financial situation, you can't afford to be picky about the buyer's identity." The conference room door opened, and David entered first, followed by Maya. She moved with practiced confidence, her white cane folding smoothly as David guided her to a chair across from Richard. The room fell silent as recognition dawned on Richard's face. "You," he whispered, his face draining of color. Maya smiled, settling into her chair with graceful composure. "Good morning, Mr. Blackstone. I believe we have business to discuss." Richard's shock quickly transformed into indignation. This is ridiculous. You can't seriously expect me to sell my property to someone like you. Someone like me? Maya's voice remained perfectly calm. You mean a successful businesswoman? The CEO of one of the fastest-growing investment firms in the country? Or did you mean someone who happens to be blind? David placed a folder in front of Maya, and she opened it with practiced ease. Mr. Blackstone, I'm offering you $48 million for the Metropolitan Cultural Center. That's substantially more than the $42 million your property is worth, and certainly more than you'll get from any other buyer given your current financial difficulties. This is about last night, isn't it? Richard's voice carried a mixture of anger and desperation. Marcus was just doing his job. We have certain standards to maintain. Standards? Maya repeated the word as if tasting something bitter. Is that what you call denying entry to paying customers based on their disabilities? Because I believe the Americans with Disabilities Act would disagree with your definition of standards. Sarah Morrison, Maya's lead attorney, leaned forward. Mr. Blackstone, we've done our due diligence. Your venue has 3 pending ADA compliance violations, $12 million in outstanding debts, and a declining revenue stream. This offer represents your best opportunity to exit with your investment intact. Richard looked around the room at his advisors, seeing his own desperation reflected in their faces. The numbers didn't lie. He was drowning financially, and this unexpected lifeline came from the very person he had humiliated less than 24 hours ago. What are your plans for the venue? He asked finally, his voice subdued. Maya's expression softened slightly. I plan to renovate it completely. Full ADA compliance, state-of-the-art accessibility features, and programming that celebrates diversity and inclusion. The Metropolitan Cultural Center will become a place where everyone is welcome, regardless of their physical abilities, background, or circumstances. And what about the staff? That depends, Maya said, her tone cooling. Staff members who embrace our new vision of inclusivity will be retained. Those who don't. She let the implication hang in the air. Richard was quiet for a long moment, staring at the contract before him. His empire built on exclusivity was crumbling, and the woman he had dismissed was offering him a way out. I need guarantees about my existing contracts, my other properties. Mr. Blackstone, Maya interrupted gently, you're not in a position to negotiate. This is a generous offer with a short window. I suggest you take it. 1 week later, Maya stood in the main hall of what was now the Maya Chen Cultural Center. The space echoed with the sounds of construction as workers installed ramps, tactile guidance systems, and audio description equipment. The venue would reopen in 3 months with a gala celebrating accessibility in the arts. David approached with a clipboard full of updates. The renovations are ahead of schedule. The accessibility consultant says this will be the most inclusive cultural venue in the city. Maya ran her hand along the smooth marble railing, newly installed at the perfect height for both wheelchair users and those with visual impairments. What about Marcus? He was terminated yesterday, along with 2 other staff members who had similar complaints in their files. The new head of security is Maria Santos. She's worked extensively with disability advocacy groups. Good. Maya turned toward the main entrance, where afternoon light streamed through the restored stained glass windows. David, I want to establish a scholarship fund. Full sponsorship for young people with disabilities who want to attend cultural events but can't afford tickets. How much are you thinking? Start with $5 million annually. We'll call it the Everyone Belongs Scholarship Program. As they walked through the transformed space, Maya felt a deep satisfaction that had nothing to do with financial success. The venue that had once excluded her now stood as a symbol of change, proof that sometimes the best response to discrimination was not just to fight back, but to create something better. 3 months later, the Maya Chen Cultural Center hosted its grand reopening with a gala that made headlines across the country. The event was attended by disability rights advocates, celebrities, politicians, and hundreds of young people who had never before had access to such cultural experiences. Maya stood on the stage where she had been denied entry just months before, addressing an audience that included many people using wheelchairs, sign language interpreters, and individuals with various visible and invisible disabilities. They say that success is the best revenge, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the venue's new sound system. But I've learned that inclusion is even better. Tonight, we don't just celebrate the opening of a venue. We celebrate the opening of minds, hearts, and opportunities. The applause was thunderous, but Maya heard something else in that sound. The echo of change, the promise of a more inclusive future, and the knowledge that sometimes, buying the venue is exactly the right response to being denied entry. As the evening continued with performances, speeches, and celebrations, Maya realized that her father's legacy had evolved beyond financial success. The Chen family name now stood for something more powerful: the belief that everyone, regardless of their abilities or circumstances, deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. The venue that had once excluded her had become a beacon of inclusion, proving that sometimes the most profound victories come not from tearing down walls, but from building bridges that welcome everyone home.